So today we are going to be discussing a very hot and controversial topic, the mansion tax. This is LARICY Live, and I'm your host, Matt LARICY. We are giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we cover the market trends, the news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. LARICY Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and the best place to close your property. LARICY Live is also brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan as fast as 8 days. So there's this new tax program that is being floated to get passed. It was something that Mayor Johnson kind of campaigned on, and since he's been elected, it kind of went away. Everybody was hoping it was swept under the rug, and then in the last few weeks, it's been brought back, and it's getting a lot of press. If you don't read the papers a lot, or you kind of browse the headlines, you may not know what it is. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. So what is the mansion tax? And that's what they're calling it, guys. It's called the mansion tax. So let's look at what a tax is in general, just for everybody out there that knows. Anybody who buys in Chicago has to essentially pay a transfer stamp tax, okay? And it's a tax to the city. I mean, there's a lot of stuff it goes to, but essentially it's just, the way I look at it, it's just an extra tax you have to pay. And there's one for buyers and there's one for sellers. And for buyers, it averages out to be about $7.50 per thousand you spend. Okay, so $7.50 per thousand is what it ends up being all in after you're done. Okay, the new mayor tax that Mayor Johnson wants to pass, called the mansion tax. Okay, so it's an increase, is a 3% tax on any property above $1 million. So you're going to go from $7.50 per thousand to 3%, which is going to more than triple the cost. To put that in perspective, if you bought $1 million house today, it would be $7,500 you're going to pay in tax just to buy it. Just not, you don't get anything out of it. You're just like, hey, government, here's $7,500. There you go. If you buy $1 million house after the mansion tax is passed, it's $30,000. Okay, so today $7,500. It will be increased to $30,000. That's a pretty crazy increase. That is, you're spending $30,000, okay, as a tax, and it's going to be going to bring home Chicago, which is one of the things you're going to try to help is homelessness. But essentially, that is a huge, huge, huge increase to the current tax that there is today. So how would that affect the kind of the luxury market? I mean, you know, there's a lot that's going into this right now, and the people and the people who are trying to pass it are saying, hey, these people who are buying $1 million plus places are super rich, and they can afford to give back, and that they need to help out the people who are not as well off. And the opponents of the bill are like, listen, people who are buying $1 million plus places, they're not like super well off. They're not as rich as you think. And it's also not that we shouldn't be using homes as like a way to give back to the city. You know, this isn't like a big charity thing, is what the opponents are saying in that front. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, I'll be on the record. I think this tax is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. I think it's the most absurd thing in the entire world. And I get it that a lot of people are watching this. They're going to say, well, you're an ass and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to give my reasonings in this podcast of why I think this is a bad move. So let's look at some luxury sales, okay? So today, right now, luxury sales are down at least 15%, okay? Most likely it's more. Now, when we look at this, okay, and we break it down and we look at what markets have passed this, let's take a look at the LA market. The LA market has passed the mansion tax, and in their area, it's for homes above $5 million. Which again, $5 million sounds like a lot of money, which, I mean, I think $5 million is a lot of money, right? So like, here's us judging, right? But in LA, from what I've read, is the $5 million market's equivalent to like the $1 million market here, where it's like people are doing well. They're not like, you know, FU loaded where they could do whatever they want with their lives and money's no object. You know, they're making by, they're getting by. And since that's been passed, sales prior to the $5 million mansion tax can pass, they had 248 sales. Since then, they've had 34 sales. So it's drastically affecting the marketplace. What people don't understand is that, like, you look at LA and you see that their sales are way down. Well, how's that going to happen in Chicago? Well, here's the thing. You got a place that's worth $125. That place is now worth well below $1 million because people are like, well, listen, I'm not going to, people are going to be looking at that mansion tax and they're going to be baking that into the price point. So essentially, the consumer is going to be paying for this, okay? And it's going to affect the seller. So the seller is going to have to bake in the fact that, like, okay, whatever buyer buys my place, I have to now discount my place by, 3% solely because I have to compensate for this. And it's going to push the places that are, close to that $1 million mark to be worth less than $1 million, which means that the places that were worth 1.5 will go down 1.25. Okay. And you may be saying this like, hey, that doesn't affect me, right? I'm never going to buy $1 million house in my lifetime. Well, here's how it's going to affect you. $1 million house can be worth 900, and 900 is going to be worth 800, and 800 is going to be worth 700. Your place that's 500,000 is going to be worth 300,000. You know what I mean? Like it's a domino effect. And here's the thing. We're placing our trust in the government, okay? And I don't know about you guys, but last time I checked with Chicago, it's dead broke. And we got the highest taxes in the country for most things. Our property taxes are absolutely and utterly ridiculous. I can tell you right now, I mean, if you watch anything and anywhere, we're a laughing stock in a lot of ways to people with crime, right? So we have high crime rates. So we look at taxes. What are taxes supposed to do? They're supposed to protect our safety, and they're supposed to give our kids the best opportunity in school. So I'll tell you, if they want to pass this mansion tax, and our city was super well ran, and it was like the safest, cleanest city in the country, that we had no crime, our schools are unbelievable, right? Like our schools are the best. You could send your kid to any school anywhere in the city, and they're going to get the best education, okay? And that, like, everything is just running smoothly, and we have, like, a great transportation system that's clean and efficient and safe. I would be like, you know what? Maybe this extra money wouldn't be a bad thing because our city's doing so well, and everybody's, like, just in a great place. But then you look at our city, it's like we're one of the highest crime rates in the country, right? Like, there's shootings. Every time you turn on the news, there's, like, every day of the week, it's a dozen people getting shot pretty much. The school systems in the south and the west sides are terrible, and at pretty much anywhere in the downtown markets are also terrible. There's very few areas where the public school systems are phenomenal. So now we're going to raise the taxes even more, and pretty much find the people that are doing well in life to try to give back to the government, who, let's face it, is just going to take it. And if you think that the government's going to sit there and take this money and then just, like, be okay with it, and they're going to say, hey, it's just above $1 million, then you don't know anything of how things work. Because what's going to happen is essentially they're going to take that money above $1 million, and the $1 million plus sales are going to start to stall, like in most parts of the country. And then what do you think the government's going to do? They're going to get their taste. They're going to be like, man, this feels pretty damn good. And, everybody got really mad about us raising the taxes, but let's face it, we got away with it. And now that the sales slow down, guess what else is going to slow down, guys? Do you know what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Well, that means if the sales slow down and the money stops coming in, and then all those little politicians that are getting, wealthy off this, what do you think they're going to do? They'll be like, well, listen, we're not making as much money as we thought we were making, so we said it was above $1 million. Let's do it for anything above 500,000. If you think that's not going to happen, wait and see, my friend. Wait and see. And then when the 500,000 plus thing starts really raking in the money, you know what those politicians start doing? They're like, man, this feels good to take this money. Let's do everything below. Let's just do it in general. Every sale in the city above 3%. If you think that's not going to happen, I'll put as much money in the world on the table that something like that will happen. Okay, maybe they won't go like above like 3% for below $500,000, but they'll probably raise to 1.5. They're going to keep skirting that up a little bit more. And it's what's the money going to go to? Where's it going to go that's actually going to make a big difference? Again, if this was like this money was going to go to the school system, and all the kids that are on the south and west sides are going to get the greatest education in the world, and every single one of these kids are going to get a college education as a result, I think a lot of people would feel pretty good about it. But the reality is they don't have a plan, and we're trusting these people who don't have a plan to take everybody's money, which is going to drastically affect the marketplace. The other thing we have to look at is the commercial market, right? The commercial market is absolutely getting decimated, okay? So, we're talking the high-end residential market's going to get hurt, okay? It's going to get, I wouldn't use the word crushed, but it's going to get hurt. But the commercial market, specifically office buildings and big multis, they're hurting now. You add a 3% tax in there, you may cripple them. And what the government doesn't understand is that, like, hey, if the office sector completely fails and all those properties in the loop go into foreclosure, which is where like most of the taxes come into the city to run the city, and now you're going to give them a death blow and cut the legs underneath them, like, where do you think the city's going to go? Like, if there's no money coming in from the commercial market because you just passed a rule when these people are already on their deathbeds, that it doesn't make any sense at all. We're not even looking at this from a logical approach. The last thing to kind of think about too, with the and with the commercial market, we look at taxes right now. Chicago has the 4th highest today, and if they pass that transfer stamp tax, it would be the 2nd highest, only behind Philadelphia. Okay, so we continue to want to be the most taxed city in the country. At a certain point, people are going to be like, listen, enough is enough. Okay, like that's it. We're already hovering on the brink of losing all the people who make money in the city. And again, I get it. A lot of people out there are going to be like, F the rich people. And this is what the media has been doing lately, which I think is crazy. It's making people become opposed towards each other, right? So people who aren't in the wealthier category are saying, well, I'm poor because it's the richest people's problem. And then the rich people are saying, like, why am I paying for the poor people's problems, right? So it's turning people against each other. And it's a terrible thing. And I think everybody should be on an equal platform. That's just my personal opinion. But if you're going to take the people who are bringing in the most money to the city and contributing the most to the tax situation, and you're going to keep pushing them away, at a certain point, the people who are buying above $1 million are going to leave. And if we take away all the people buying above $1 million, guess what, guys? City won't work. Just doesn't work like that. The top contributes the most. So if we lose them, that's going to be a huge, huge problem for the city. What about more sales? Where will sales go? If we look at it statistically speaking of what's happening in other markets, LA, New York passed one, but there's more on a gradual tax. The sales have plummeted. Again, when you look at LA, you had 248 sales before. We're down to 34 sales now. That's a substantial difference. And again, that's going to be a domino effect on the price points. So my next question is, will prices go down? 100%. 100% people's prices will go down. And I also don't think it's fair. Why is it fair for somebody that has a place that's worth 1.25 that now it's worth $1 million because Johnson wants to pass a rule? Now, again, I know there's going to be people out there that's watching this that has a $250,000 house. I'm like, not my problem. It's up to you. It will be your problem. Eventually, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in the next 10 years or so, this tax will impact you. And your place that's worth $250,000 today, it may end up being worth $200,000 in the future. And here's the problem. This is just a honest reality. I don't care what it sounds like, but like your place being worth $250,000 to $200,000 is going to have a much more impact on your life than the person's house that went from $125,000 to $1 million. That's just reality. So the people who are going to end up really paying for this tax are going to be the middle class. The middle class are going to be the hardest hit by this because ultimately somebody's going to have to end up really getting hurt from this, and the rich are going to pass the buck. Okay? And when we look at the commercial market, when you see the commercial market sector, what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, if I have to buy this building that I'm turning into rentals, right, and I have to spend an extra 3%, well, I'm going to take that extra $1 million, right, that I had to pay in taxes, and I'm going to pretty much divide that amongst all the units that I'm going to be renting out, amongst the 300 units, and I'm going to raise everybody's rent by that much. So you out there that may never own, that's just renting, guess what? You're going to pay more rent now for the mansion tax, So the people who are renting, when you're trying to save up for whatever you want to do in your life, are now going to be affected monthly, every month, for the rest of your rentable future because this mansion tax isn't passed. People have to look at this from all aspects. It's very important that people speak up about this because this will have a detrimental effect on the marketplace. We have to remember, guys, that we have the second highest property taxes in the country, okay? We already are getting taxed to death on everything that we do. When are we going to say enough? Like, when is enough enough? Like, at a certain point, we have to put the brakes on this and say, like, we just got to settle down. So when we think about will the mansion tax ultimately have a positive or a negative effect on the marketplace, it will substantially have a huge negative impact on the marketplace. It will 100% bring price points down. It's going to make deals coming together much harder. Most likely, sellers are going to end up paying for it greatly by being the reduction of the cost, and buyers are going to be having to come out of pocket much more. And one of my closing thoughts on this is just think about this. As a buyer, you're going to have your down payment, okay? You're going to have your closing costs, okay? And then you're going to have a 3% cost on top of that. And one of my next podcasts going to be talking about the bombshell NAR lawsuit about commissions, which completely is going to change the way real estate is done. But if we look at what's going on with these extra taxes, it's going to pretty much make the upper end market unaffordable for the majority of people that are buying. So I've had a lot of people ask me about how this will impact the marketplace, and I'll use the words, it's going to be detrimental. It'll absolutely be detrimental to the marketplace, and it will affect the landscape of real estate in the Chicago cityscape for a while. And if you have to think about it, guys, there's a lot of people that are on the fence of saying like, hey, do I buy in Chicago or do I buy in the suburbs, right? That's going to be a big thing for a lot of people. Like, let's kind of sweat it out for another 4 or 5 years. Like people who are about to have kids or have their first kid and like, I'm going to buy like a place for a little over $1 million, stay in the city, and then I'm going to go to the suburbs after that. They're going to be like, hey, listen, why am I going to spend 3% now and then 4 years later, sell my place, deal with this 3% tax of how I'm going to have to compensate my future buyer on it, and then buy in the suburbs where I'm not paying 3%. So the suburbs suburb people out there should be like pushing this. They should be saying like, let's pass this thing. They're going to be raking in the money. It's going to make the suburb market, skyrocket in value. But at the same time, it's going to make the city completely, depreciate in value. So if you want some more information about what's happening in the mansion tax and, where this is going to affect the marketplace, keep reading some of the articles that are coming out. Feel free to ask us. We are tracking it as much as we can. And thanks for listening to LARICY Live.